Someone said that their family does Someone said that their family doesn't care about them, then what they should do. This is very general problem, as we all know, that nowadays there is a generation gap, and due to that it is very difficult for two generations to communicate with each other. Just because of this generation gap, there is a gap in the thought school. What is this generation gap? How can we define this generation gap? From where this generation gap is coming? Is it something new or is it something very old? So the thing what we have to understand for the generation gap, it is not something which we think as a gap in generation. No. Basically, we are using the wrong word, generation gap. No. That is not the exact word. The exact word is thinking gap, thinking differences. What is this now? It is very easy to understand when time passes. When there is a flow in the time, there are two different things. Every time, every culture go through some process. And whenever they are going through the process, there are developments. There are changes in the technology, changes in the fashion, and changes in the thinking. But what is common in these things? Only one thing is common in these things, and that is emotions. These emotional things do not vary at all. In ancient times, these were the same emotions: fear, love, hate, jealousy, guilt, happiness, sadness, etc. There is no change in these things, and these things are deeply seated in the subconscious mind. So, what is changing if these things are not changing? Outside world is changing. And we believe that if outside world is changing, there is everything which is changing. And there is the difference that we say thinking difference, generation gap. No, this is not an issue. There is no difference in the thinking. These things work in a cycle. When there is a time when you keep yourself very much closed, then there is a thinking that we should get out of this closed boundaries. When we get out of these closed boundaries and when we fly, then we realize that we are not protected anymore. We are insecure. And then we feel the need to have boundaries. Then we feel the need to have set protected areas. Then there is the development of new thinking. And that thinking is, we should go into the closed areas. When we are into the closed areas, we want to be in the open, and when we are in open, then we are thinking differently. And this is the process that coming from the inner side. And when they are outside, they want to go to the inside. And this is what we call thinking difference. But there is no such thing as thinking difference. we have to understand the limits. If we understand the limits, it is very easy for us to understand the gap. There is no gap. That gap is in our mind. That gap we have developed. That gap we have created. That was not, which already existed now. So, what we have to do, we have to understand that if we will work on our inner self, then there will be no gap. There will be no difference if we will respect others. If we will respect opinion of others. If we understand that there are intellectual differences, people have different IQ levels, they have different EQ levels. Only then we can understand that we can never have same thinking. Even those who says there is generation gap, can you please tell me, suppose this is a new generation and two people are from new generation, do they have same thinking? Do you think they never disagree with each other? Or do you think someone from the earlier generation, they always and completely disagreeing with this new generation? Obviously not. So what exactly is this generation gap? This is something we have made it. It was never existed. Thank you.